Hey, it is Debbie Potts, and I want to share with you some different websites and my thoughts on how confusing everyone probably is about how to fuel and train to perform your best in life and sports. You almost get whiplash. Do I eat carbs? Do I not eat carbs? How much protein do I eat? What protein counts? How much is absorbable? What fat should I have? Or should I do low fat? Should I eat a bowl of fruit in the morning? It's very confusing. There's all different programs out there, and they make sense, a lot of them. Others don't. What my focus is on this show today is to talk about you. You are unique. You're not the same as me. You don't have the same stressors, the same lifestyle schedule, the same workout schedule, sleep routine, quality of sleep. Our microbiomes are different. Just a lot different things, including genetics. And what works for me might not work for you. What some foods work great for you are not going to work for me. So to do low carb, to do keto, to do carnivore elimination diet, we need to experiment, find what works for you. Ideally, do some testing and not guess. Look at your gut test. Are you low in digestive enzymes? Do you have H. pylori? Do you have overgrowth of candida, yeast overgrowth? What is your bacteria diversity like? Do you have more bad guys than good guys? Are they outnumbering each other? So we want to look ideally what's going on the inside, as well as your genetic report. Sometimes that gives us some insight. Looking at our food sensitivities sometimes help what foods we have, because we have leaky gut. If we are reactive to certain foods that we eat all the time that we may not know are causing some stress inside our body, inflammation. So what is the best diet for you? I don't know. Real food. So it all comes down to everyone saying all these different things: keto, carnivore, carnivore with fruit, have some honey, just eat plant-based. It is so what you can do to eat a nutrient-dense whole foods diet that balances your blood sugar. That's what I learned years ago in my nutritional therapy practitioner program. Eat real food, nutrient-dense whole foods, real food that balances your blood sugar. Do you have a different workout routine than others? There's a lot of information out there that is not for the fit and active and healthy individual. The recommendations out there that a lot of us fit and active people took on as fasting and OMAD and fasted exercise and super low carb, ketogenic diet, they might work better for men than women. They may work better for different ages of women, if you're perimenopause, postmenopause, or premenopause. If you are working out regularly, once, twice a day, doing higher intensity workout, doing strength training, or you're doing low, easy workouts. If you are metabolically unhealthy, this is what a lot of the programs work best for. If you have a metabolic health issue as type 2 diabetes, or before that, insulin resistance, do you have some areas of opportunity that you need to address that works best with starting with nutrition, getting some exercise, the right type, frequency, duration, and intensity, managing your stressors, external and hidden internal stressors that you don't even know about unless you do the functional lab testing, and looking at movement mobility, looking at your gut health, your digestion. Are you even eating the right foods correctly, digesting them, breaking them down, starting with eating in a parasympathetic nervous system state, rest and digest, chewing your food 20, 30 times, getting those digest enzymes to work? You don't know a lot of this. And I think we need to personalize our programs. We can't just say, I am eating this, these are the supplements I am taking, so you need to do this too. I do not do well with a lot of fruit. I can do an apple, and I had an apple slice today with some goat cheese and some walnuts because I was going to do a swim workout and I needed to eat, and it was 10 a.m. and I did start my work day, having some protein, and I had it in a form of perfect aminos. 10 tablets equals to 30 grams. So hitting the 30, 50 grams, ideally 50 grams of protein in the morning and evening. So there's a lot of personalization we need to do. I do not appreciate everyone telling what you should eat. We need to focus on, yes, eat real foods, get rid of the refined oils, get rid of the crappy processed foods and packages that are not even real. Focus on that, hitting your protein goals, and then we figure out what healthy fats work best for you and what carbohydrates that are from nature work best for you, and timing them in and around your workouts. And then we need to look at men versus women. Men may need more carbohydrates than women. Women that are post-menopause are more insulin resistant. So we need to do things a little differently. So men versus women, and then women, different phases of her life with hormone changes is going to change as well. And then put in your workout routine. Are you doing what heart rate zone? What type of strength routine are you doing? Resistance training should be at least twice a week, 2 to 4 times a week. And what type of HIIT sprint interval training with proper recovery are you doing? So that is my rant, because I am just laughing at everyone going one program to another. So here's some things I want to share on the slides. This is my report from the DNA company. This is, you can go and look at the DNA company. You've got all these reports. This is my genetic report, diet and nutrition. So just some suggestions. They take all my different genes that are related to diet, and they give me a breakdown. So this is where it looks confusing too. Look at my report, dietary fats profile. I am more likely to be a candidate for a plan that integrates reduced levels of dietary fats. Reduce your consumption of saturated fats. No more than 20% of my daily diet should be fat from olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. That's what they say. Carbohydrate profile, reduced carbohydrate. I'm more likely be a candidate that integrates reduced levels of starchy vegetables as rice, pasta, and breads. And get my high amount of fiber. No more than 25% of my intake from starchy sources, no less than 75% of fruits, vegetables, and other fiber sources. But then we talk to someone else, and plants are toxins, don't have plants. And then my protein score. So it's like, okay, well, what am I supposed to eat? I need to keep low carb. I need to watch my fats. And then I have poor response to toxins and protein. So I need my protein, but what type of protein? I need to avoid charred, burnt, and smoked meats. Really, I need to support my liver a little bit more so I can detox and respond to toxins found in the foods and the environment that we are surrounded by toxins nonstop. And so this is looking at variations in genes. We don't see them as much of the protein metabolism, but it comes to how I respond to toxins. So I can have proteins, and I need to watch my fats that are saturated fats and carbohydrate intake of course, the refined flours and grains. And I am more intolerant to gluten. I'm wheat sensitive. So here's some other information. Suboptimal vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D is optimal, zinc is optimal, but I still need to test. So this is just genetic, right? So this doesn't say I'm already there. I still need to test. And then I probably need to make sure I am looking at my vitamin C periodically, especially in the wintertime, and then vitamin A, suboptimal. My eyes are bugging me, which is why I'm wearing my blue blockers all the time now in the day, my daytime ones, but I probably need some extra support. Maybe that's why my eyes are more sensitive to the computer screen than other people. Now it gives some information on my food sensitivities. And then look, insulin resistance and gluten sensitivity. This is yellow. I'm more likely to have an increased predisposition towards insulin resistance. So I need to track my insulin levels and watch blood sugar, and ideally wear CGM periodically to notice certain foods that are healthy, but may increase my level of glucose that can trigger insulin to be released to lower them down, or make sure I have my carbohydrates around my workout so I can move the glucose out of the bloodstream into the muscle. Now, I'm more prone to be non-celiac gluten sensitive, and that is a fact. I was tested by my wheat Zoomer you can get through Vibrant Wellness or Vibrant America. And it is true. I am non-celiac gluten sensitive. So that ended up being correct. Lactose tolerant. I don't have a problem with milk. And so suboptimal microbiome. I'm more susceptible to microbiome imbalances, weakened, susceptible microbiome. So that is interesting. So more reason we need to do a gut test, a stool test as Genova Diagnostics, or I've been looking at this company Flore, Flore around here, and they do tests and then customize your probiotics based on your results. So I need to keep an eye on my microbiome, which every test I've done, microbiome test, stool test, has been not optimal. So I need to be careful. So this is why I think looking at personalized coaching programs to fuel and train and your lifestyle habits and what supplements you may need, we need to not say everyone needs to follow what I do. This is what Debbie needs to do here based on her genetics and looking at that information. Now, we've got good information from my friend Brad at bradkearns.com, his carnivore scores sheet I went over before, but he's changed based on his 4-part series with Jay Feldman that I listened to in the 4th one last night. And you can learn from Brad, but he has changed his perspective on eating more fruit, more carbs, and eating more calories. That works for Brad. If you look back at my genetic report and that I am a 52-year-old female that has low estrogen, and as we lower estrogen, we'll go into my blog I just put together on insulin, I am more insulin resistant as I get older with lower estrogen. So I personally do not do well with a lot of fruit, even though a lot of my friends are suggesting eat more fruit, get those carbs in there, because it will help us perform doing more HIIT training, which is true. We need to do, as females, especially in aging, we need to make sure we don't do the wrong type of workouts because we want to improve speed, power, body composition, and strength. And so to do that, we want to look at food plans as this, but we want to look at what Debbie, needs to eat to improve my performance in my workouts. Debbie doesn't do well with fruits. Me, Debbie. So I did an apple, like I said, and it worked great for me, but I'm introducing some more berries. And when I go to Hawaii for a couple of weeks, I will eat pineapple and papaya fresh from the farmer's market. And I used to always get a headache 5 minutes into it, but if I pair it with other foods, I do well. But I do think when we're adding in more fruit or carbohydrates, if you have been low carb for a long time, as Jay Feldman said on the interview, you need to add it in slowly so you learn how to break those foods down. I find individual Debbie, needs more supplements to break my food down. I need digestive enzymes to break down meat, and I need to, as I said, time my carbohydrate intake around my exercise to improve performance, but because I need to get the carbs into the muscle glycogen with exercise because I don't have insulin as much, right? Or not that I don't have it, I'm more insulin resistance on the muscle cells. So gets more confusing, right? So Dr. Ken Berry, I went over this before, his proper human diet. You can pull up this free ebook he has on his website. Carbohydrates. There are no essential carbohydrates or sugars for human health. Carbohydrate intake is optional and adjustable, and zero carb is an option. Nutrient density is what we all say. Focus on nutrient intake for optimal health. Certain amino acids, fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals are essential. Nutrients are why we need food. Focus on avoiding those inflammatory foods with inflammatory chemicals. We all agree on that. Some foods you can really do a 90-day elimination diet, and you can realize that, oh, I do have reaction to certain foods, and they show up as gut, skin, joint, mindset. You might have some mental health issues that might be alleviated doing a 90-day elimination program. So again, as Dr. Ken Berry says, it is an N=1 experiment. So recommending a 90-day or 30-day even carnivore cure program, as Dr. Judy talks about, carnivore cure is her program, but that's what they're talking about here on Dr. Ken Berry's website. So they're focusing on a lot of people that are more metabolically unhealthy. They have not a lot of exercise in their plan. They're not doing HIIT training as much as you probably are, and doing a lot of endurance training and strength training. A lot of people that have these issues, or not issues, but have struggled with weight and following the proper human diet, are doing more fasting, doing more strict keto of 20 grams a day. They're not fit and active. So the information we've heard the last 10, 15 years for keto, for fasting, and now for carnivore, though I do know a lot of carnivore bodybuilders and some extra experts in the area focusing on carnivore, it is more obviously strict elimination diet. And Dr. Anthony Chafee, he has some health issues that were alleviated when he took everything out and went to carnivore. So he promotes that, but that worked for him because he has a lot of issues with certain foods that you may too, that you don't know until you take them out. But adding back in certain foods as fruits, as some starchy vegetables may work best. But I think it's eliminating the inflammatory foods everyone talks about. So we can all agree we all need, for human health, as Dr. Ken Berry says, we need a nutrient-dense diet. Focus on nutrient intake for optimal health. Sugar, carb addiction is what has happened from our focus on non-fat, low-fat, quick and easy food that people don't know how to cook anymore, and they're on the go and they're eating fast food and stuff out of a package. So avoiding packaged foods, barcodes, ingredient lists with a bunch of foreign items on it. I think that's what everyone agrees with. Then to adjust your macros, your fat, protein, carbs of real food sources is going to depend on you, men versus women, and then activity level and all that. Then you can go to Dr. Sim's website for the female athlete and her take on carbohydrates. We need the protein, but Dr. Stacy Sims has always been advocate that we should not be fasting as athletes. 12 hours should be good enough fast, dinner to breakfast. Women perform best in a fueled state. And she has information on her website here. So we don't mean to demonize carbohydrates, and my website and podcast has been Low Carb Athlete. But I find that I can't remember 10 years ago, but when I was racing Ironman and started to get adrenal fatigue in 2013, I am curious to go back in time if I was doing too low of calories, as she talks about low energy availability, and also too much fasted exercise. And if you listen to Jay Feldman on the episode 4, Brad Kearns told me to listen to on my way home from my mom's last night, that we are adding extra stress. So if you are an endurance athlete and you are looking at Dr. Dan Plu's workouts, you're fueling for those long workouts. If you're doing endurance triathlon work, 50K, you are perhaps not eating enough calories or doing carbs. Or when I was doing this, I was taking nut butters, fat bomb, F-bomb butters, and I was doing coconut cream, and I wasn't probably eating enough. And so what Jay Feldman's good, interesting energy theory, energy metabolism of getting the right foods to fuel our body, but are we adding more stress? Because I wasn't eating enough and I wasn't getting enough carbohydrates in, and I was doing too much fat. I don't know. It's hard to go back in time, but I think a lot of us are fasting too much, eating too little, training too much, not doing as much the right type of workout, and we are not following the correct type of workout we should do as aging athletes to improve our power, strength, speed, and body composition. So if you want to change your body composition, which is losing fat weight, increasing lean body muscle mass, we need to change how we feel. We need to change how we train, and we need to change our lifestyle habits, maybe change around our whole workout schedule. So you can check out Endure IQ. They have this great chart for athletes, endurance, low tempo, upper tempo threshold. Now, again, is this just for men or is this for women too? We can't just say one size fits all. It's a template. Start with it. So if you're doing a workout, pre-workout, this is what you should have during the workout. After the workout, here's some suggestions. Again, they're templates, not one size fits all. Find what works. Then there's another good article. Dan Plews has The Right Time, Right Fuel, working with S fuels, their approach. It doesn't mean zero carb. My podcast doesn't mean we're against carbs. I like what Dr. Gabrielle talks about is that your carbs and the RDA for carbohydrates is 100 grams. The typical standard American diet is 300 plus grams of carbohydrates. An athlete, you earn your carbohydrates, but you don't earn the crap, the scones, the muffins, the Cliff Bars and stuff that have a ton of carbs in them. So we want to look at 30 grams of carbohydrates at once. And when you're exercising, they suggest up to 60 grams per hour. So if you are training and racing for a long distance event, know that it's not ideal for your longevity. We need to make sure we recover and repair in between and avoid excess stress or manage your stress a little bit more. So how to implement carbohydrate periodization into your training. Dan Plews in this article talks about restricting carb intake in and around lower intensity. So zone 1, zone 2. Don't be afraid to ingest carbohydrates during long duration sessions, doing 1.5 hours, 2-hour workouts, 2 hours. I guess yeah. So it's okay. I think we have demonized people in the keto space. I've never been strict keto. I've always said low carb means like 100 grams a day to 130, as Dr. Dan Plews. And Stacy Sims talks about how menopausal women, we are more insulin resistant. So I'm not in menopause, but if you are post-menopause, even close to it, there's our estrogen, progesterone levels, we become more insulin resistant. So it is difficult to get carbohydrates into the muscle and use carbohydrates for fuel for a female postmenopausal. So our estrogen and progesterone will make a difference in that. We become more efficient at the long, slow distance work using fat for fuel if you are postmenopause. So maybe you don't need as much as carbohydrates as a man, and we are better at burning fat. So we don't need to take in some, but we do need some. So it gets very confusing. And this is why we need a personalized program, because research shows women need carbohydrates, but then she talks about postmenopause, women can't get carbs into the muscle. So we need to look at, okay, what age are you as a female? Are you getting enough calories in? But looking at maybe adding in a little bit of carbs pre-workout. And then I'll have like a Laird's bar, and I think there's 15 grams of carbohydrates in there and fiber. So look at these articles. I'll put them in the show notes. Periodization, your carbs, depending on your training schedule. You want to fuel more intense sessions with extra carbs to support training quality and maximize your stimulus for the adaptation. Stacy Sims says that. This is Dan Plews' website. Brad Kearns is talking about why he's adding more fruit and adding that into his experiment. So it doesn't have to be fruit. I think it can be like I've been doing an apple as a fruit, but I've been okay with adding in potatoes work for me. I'm trying not to do nuts and seeds because I'm trying not to do ideally everything a 4-day rotation diet. So try not to eat too much almond butter because almonds and almond flour, I had to remove that. So I'm trying to just cut back on almonds or anything with almonds. And look at different sources, if it's S fuels, if it's Laird superfood, but look at this chart. It's pretty handy, but fueling in and around your workouts, especially if you are insulin resistant female, you need to time your carbs to improve performance in and around your workout because you can't get carbs into that muscle with insulin. So once we exercise, we can get that glucose uptaken with wait, now I'm getting mixed up. What's it called? GLUT4 transporter. So I went down all these rabbit holes. I'll show you in a bit. Lastly, great 2-part podcast with Dr. Minkoff about protein and amino acids, because I'm focusing on muscle protein synthesis, muscle health as an aging athlete. And that's what all my research in my new group online course is going to be on, longevity. And that is focusing on what Dr. Gabrielle Lyon's talking about, Forever Strong, Forever Young. So her book, Forever Strong, you should get. Now, bodyhealth.com, you can see the information on the perfect amino. And this was fascinating to me. And I shared this on my Instagram. You can see Coach Debbie Potts and the chart on protein utilization, how to build protein percentage. If we do branched chain amino acids, that's 1%. Whey, soy, and nuts. So if I'm having the whey shake, I'm only using 18% of that. I want to build muscle, not lose muscle. So we're in this constant state of fighting against catabolic breakdown state compared to building is anabolic. And that's what I've done a lot of blogs, and I will do more podcasts on mTOR versus AMPK pathway, because all these people doing excessive fasting, they're in AMPK pathway. They're in breakdown. If you're aging, why would you want to be in a breakdown all the time doing these prolonged fasts and not focus on resistance training and prioritizing protein? This is where the industry, I think, is slowly shifting away from keto being focused on just fat, is kind of the old way. Now we're focusing on protein, but having more fatty meat. And I think that depends on the person too, that you should feel satiated. And if you're properly eating your food, eating slowly, mindfully, and chewing it, are you breaking down that food, or do you need digestive enzymes and support breaking the protein down? Test and not guess first, because if you have H. pylori, I don't want you taking HCl betaine till that H. pylori is decreased. So going back to this chart, it's pretty interesting if you think about, how am I going to build muscle? How am I going to do that body recomp? Increase my muscle mass, lower fat mass. I want to be lean and strong. I don't like squishy fat arms. I don't like my muscles in my legs need to be there. I don't want to have this increase. And I'm at that age that I have to fight that. As we get older, what happens? We get slower, fatter, and wrinkles. And I don't want any of that. So this is my solution. I bought a bunch of bottles of Body Health Perfect Aminos, which you can order on my Full Script account. Email me, I'll send you the link, or I'll put it in the show notes. If you take Perfect Aminos, you'll learn in my podcast with them that you can convert that 99% to help build protein. If you are into fasting, or if you're busy, like today, I was busy and I didn't eat till 10:15, and I lifted this morning at 5:15 and I ran 40 minutes. I needed to get protein in that post-workout. And I had my 10 tablets of Perfect Aminos, and I had my coffee with my cream and some collagen in it. But now I know if I'm squishy and I'm lifting heavy weights and doing all this stuff, I am not absorbing my protein. I'm doing the resistance training and I'm getting my protein, but am I absorbing my protein? Am I breaking it down into amino acids, into usable building blocks? Super fascinating. So listen to my 2-part interview with Dr. Minkoff, and you can read more on his page. And I think I did a discount code for you if you go to Perfect Aminos, or the website's bodyhealth.com. So another interesting part. And then more information I'll come out with. What is protein synthesis? What is insulin resistance? Insulin is needed to build muscle. What if you are insulin resistant because of your hormones, estrogen being lower? So if we want to build muscle to avoid losing it and be in this constant state. You're not saying get big and bulky, be bodybuilder. It's just we don't want to be weak and mushy and fatty. Maybe you're low weight, but your fat tissue is too high. You need to increase your lean tissue. So stop focusing on losing fat and start focusing on increasing muscle strength. Protein is the main building block of your muscle. So this website says, when you ingest protein, the protein is digested into amino acids. The amino acids are absorbed into the gut, released circulation, transported into the tissues where they're taken up and can build into tissue protein. Protein synthesis, building new proteins, happens in all the organs, but we're focusing on our talk about muscle protein synthesis. Every brick is an amino acid. Muscle protein is addition of new bricks to the wall. Muscle protein synthesis. We're building muscles, building with those amino acids. So when we talk about, the bank account, right? The sum of the two determine your net balance. We want net muscle protein balance by having more build up, anabolic, than break down. And I think everyone's been fit. The fit world, the athlete world, has been fasting too much when they're lifting weights and trying to eat protein and maybe not eating enough protein and focusing on fat, eating as much fat as they want. And maybe it's backfiring for some people because as we get older, it's harder, right, to keep that muscle. So we want to watch our stress load and get out of being in a constant stress state. And that stress means excessive exercise, excessive fasting, excessive biohacking, excessive just doing too much in life. All that stress accumulates. And if you have an imbalance, a negative balance of your muscle bank account, too much, the expenses to income, you get to be in debt. And that would be to your muscles, right? So we want to not have excessive breakdown more than build up. The Goldilocks effect of everything. So this website, I can't even read it. Nutrition Tactics. I'll have to put it in the show notes because I can't read. The ultimate guide to muscle protein synthesis. So check that out. I thought this is tons of information in this one. De novo muscle protein synthesis. I heard that on Dr. Gabrielle's site. There's more information, the role of insulin I want to go into, but I've been putting my rabbit hole on my website. So you can go into what is insulin resistance, and there's a whole bunch of questions I was looking at. What is muscle protein synthesis and leucine? And I think it's just so interesting to think about, can we need muscle? How do we build muscle? And doing so much high fat and fasting, not prioritizing protein, and then doing too much chronic cardio can add to your muscle imbalance, being in a breakdown state. So that was my thought just to share today. I wanted to go into muscle building health for longevity, and that's my new 30-day group program. It will be more 6 weeks total time with a preparation week and then maintenance week go over. And then 30 days we'll work on what type of nutrition plan might work best for you, and course correcting, adjusting those macros based on your satiety and hitting those protein goals first. As the research shows, we know we need to eat that protein that's absorbable. So supplementing with some perfect aminos might be beneficial, and getting all those amino acids that you need in the right amount to create that muscle protein synthesis. So that is what I think is so fascinating. Put that with resistance training, some HIIT training, but learning how to do that correctly. So ideally, you get the Pinoy metabolic test at rest and an exercise test. The test will tell you what your personalized training program will be. What do you need to do each week based on your test results, not based on Longevity studies say that zone 2 and zone 5 help with longevity to increase your VO2 max. But what are you doing? What have you been doing? And what your zones really are what we can find out. Are you doing too much cardio and not enough resistance training? That's usually the case with my endurance athletes. So that is some information to look over. And if you have any questions, let me know and I can dive into it as I've been going down these different rabbit holes, trying to figure out the best way to stay youthful, the best way to get stronger, get faster, and more powerful as we age and fight those stereotypes as, oh, I'm getting older, I can't do this, I can't do that. I think modern days now, we can fight a lot of that. We just have to change how we fuel and how we train. But how should you fuel is going to be different. So if you are needing to go certain carbs around your workout, balance your blood sugar, figure out how to time your exercise around those meals, there's a lot more to it. So we can't just tell everyone to do a certain meal plan. It might not work, especially women and men are different. And women, we've got premenopause, perimenopause, postmenopause. And fasting, if you're exercising as much as I am, we know now, not so good for us. I have very low thyroid. My T3 is super low. My body, my hormones are low. So I need to take care of me. We need to figure out how to take care of you. So get some lab testing, get a metabolic test, get a full comprehensive blood chemistry panel. Inside Tracker is great, but you can get a lot of that less expensive on Ulta Labs or own your own labs, and get a FDN practitioner as myself that is a health investigator, that we can look at all these pieces, all these clues, and put the pieces of the puzzle together to create your program best for you. So if you are motivated to take care of yourself, if you are a health optimizer, if you are taking ownership of your health, taking care of you because you love yourself enough to make yourself a priority, to put that oxygen mask on first, to focus on saving a little money so you can make your second half of your life your best life, so you can thrive as you get older, so you can create your ideal future self. What do you want to be doing? How do you want to be moving? How do you want to be living life when you're 80, 90, 100 years old? So something to think about as we go into a new year. All right. I will let you go. Have a good rest of your day.